Hello, amigos. This is David with Raíces Vivas. Red and I were here welcoming one of our good friends and also a partner on the nonprofit, organizations that we do good things for the community. So, Stephen Lucke, welcome to the ranch.
Yes, welcome. I'm happy to be here. We've been talking about it. I mean, I remember even at the Renewable Republic, just talking about you're looking for land and trying to figure things out, and you found this space. So happy to finally make it. Almost probably 2 years later, I want to say, since we met.
Wild ride.
Yeah, no, progress has been made. Here we're sitting underneath the barn.
That's right.
I'm Stephen Lucke with Gardopia Gardens. We teach people how to be healthy and sustainable through garden-based learning. We work with schools, churches, community centers, restaurants, even houses. We've built some victory gardens with y'all.
Yep.
And essentially we're trying to address two of the biggest challenges that our generation is going to have in this century, which is climate change and public health, right? And so we just went through a pandemic. The temperatures are up and down. We have erratic weather. And so what are we going to do about it? And how are we going to protect our food system and make sure that people are healthy? And so that's what we're trying to do, man. And, we're doing it in the urban, and then you're out here doing it in the rural. And that connection is really key, right? A lot of times, like, you have city folk and you have country folk, right? And, like, they don't really interact all the time. No. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us to sort of bridge that gap.
Absolutely. Working with y'all has been just an incredible experience, learning experience. Thanks to you, we've been introduced more to the urban zine, and we've been welcomed great. And like you said, my expertise is not in the city, but golly, put me in the countryside. I'm just happy as an armadillo.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, you already talked to us about what Gardopia does. Tell us about yourself. Who is Stephen Lucke? What is your story? How did you got to here?
Well, I grew up in San Antonio and was, just sort of like a regular American person, just sort of focused and I feel like maybe a little selfish and, sort of tunnel vision, a city slicker, right? And so I really didn't care about the environment. I did care about my health. And so when I went to college and I was learning about health and biology and chemistry and nutrition, becoming aware of the obesity epidemic and the public health crisis impacting our kids' diabetes. Childhood diabetes is really high. And so for me, that's the issue when a child is born without a fighting chance, right?
True.
And, some of it's tied to poverty, but a lot of it's tied to our food system, right? Because there's enough food for everybody, but the way that we're educated and the food that's accessible to us at the convenience stores and at the fast food. I mean, there's fast food everywhere, right? Like everywhere. McDonald's, Wendy's, pizza. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And so it's very difficult to be healthy. And so for me, I needed to find a solution. And I saw a quote from Hippocrates, the founder of Western medicine, that said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So at that point, I said, I'm like, if the guy who pretty much created allopathic medicine is saying that food is medicine, then why are we taking all these pills? So I personally stopped taking medicine because I was in an organic chemistry class and I was learning about reactions. And I asked my professor, I'm like, so you're telling me that if you have this chemical and these chemicals mixing together, that they can have side effects that we don't know about? He's like, yeah, pretty much, right? So all these prescriptions that we're providing, like, they have cross reactions and can create a worse illness or disease than you started out with. Because like they do a commercial, right, for Claritin or whatever, and they're like, may have runny nose, bleeding out your butt, like all this stuff. I was like, what?
Yeah, you might die out of this, but you should take it.
Hold on, I'll keep the allergies. So that's just sort of what got me into it, and also just so many things geopolitically and natural disasters happening. Learning about the United Nations and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The city of San Antonio has a climate adaptation and action plan. And I went down this wormhole, literally, of health. And so that's what made me decide that I needed to grow my own food.
So you have a academic background on, what is your academic background?
Yeah, so I have degrees in biochemistry, nutrition. I'm a certified organic farmer, and I'm a strength and conditioning specialist.
Golly. Wow, that's amazing. And then, so you already talk a little bit about, like, the impact on the urban scene, but having all of these opportunities and windows and like chances, why you decided to focus on your urban like scene in San Antonio, specifically in San Antonio? Why, or do you remember when was the moment that you were like, I'm gonna do this for my town?
Yeah, well, I think divine intervention, or just where, a product of where you're born and your environment. I was partial to San Antonio. I've been there, and I wanted to make an impact in my community. It's easy to want to go to LA or New York or Miami, like these really big cities, right? And sort of be in that limelight. But I was like, if I can't do it here, I can't do it anywhere. Like, this is a very fertile place to make change. And if I can do it here, then that gives me the opportunity to do it in more places as well.
Absolutely.
So, I hope one day to spread my wings and go in other places.
Yeah.
But right now, I am in San Antonio for a specific reason. And if I can't do it, it's going to be difficult for other people to do it too, right?
Yeah.
So, I want to leave that print of changing San Antonio from one of the least healthiest cities. We're not one of the least sustainable, but we have a long way to go. So changing that trajectory to being a very sustainable, healthy city. And I think it can be done. I think it's possible. I say we're on the 20-year plan.
Yeah.
Between 2020, when the pandemic hit, to 2040. In the next 20 years, I want every kid to get this education, because it has to be a cultural change, right?
Absolutely.
If you're not taught as a child, the odds of you picking it up as an adult are going to be very low. And so I want kids to grow up with this, right? Like, kids should be able to know where their food comes from. They should be able to get outside into nature. They should be respecting and taking care of their planet. And so when I grew up, that really wasn't the norm, in the 90s. And so switching that paradigm and making it a part of the educational system, and we've been able to make inroads on that. I think sometimes people don't believe that gardening is a tool for education, but the pandemic changed that, really. It changed gardening from like a hobby to like something that everybody thinks they need to do. And it happened in 1940 during World War II with the Victory Gardens,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And we're hoping to pick up that torch and plant some seeds.
The crazy thing about that topic is how, during the last, I don't know, call it 40, 50 years, we have lost in the community, and also this, I like to call it this empiric knowledge in general, because so many of those beliefs, they have been lost. And maybe because they weren't cool enough, or because the cool thing to do or to take was medicine, was this new food, was microwaves, was Teflon freaking like skillets, and
So many advancements in technology.
advancements that at the time you believed that they were good because you
Seemed
were
progressive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you were told, and imagine the shift from somebody cooking with copper or stainless steel or clay. Now somebody else, some scientist with a white robe, is telling you this is much better for you. So I think community-wise, and especially in San Antonio, with the presence of Black community, Mexican community, Anglo community, like it's such a like eclectic, beautiful place that it has so many like inputs from their cultures that we ended up having this beautiful mix, and many of that is not active anymore. It's not like available anymore. So now when you have recipes or remedies, it's like, oh, that's just like a house remedy. Like, no, that saved lives, you know? So I think we've been a little disconnected because it's a cool thing to do, or what we've been told. But
And also, there's a ton of profits in the medicinal pharmaceutical industry, right? So, like, if I have to grow rosemary, or I have to grow oregano or thyme, or like whatever type of medicinal herb maybe you're growing, right? That takes time. It could take 90 days. It could take 180 days. It could take over a year to grow it, right? And so that takes time, versus if I synthesize a chemical for 10 cents almost immediately in a scientific lab, right? So the time, the cost, the labor, right, decreases, but then they sell it for a whole bunch. And
Yep.
America spends the most on healthcare, but we're not the healthiest nation, right? And so it's really more about sick care. And people don't realize, like, that transition over the past 100 years. In 1920, we were more of an agrarian society. We were more active. Not everybody had a vehicle, right? If you had a vehicle, you didn't have multiple vehicles.
Yeah.
Computers really didn't even exist back then. And so we've transitioned from like a very active, walking, pedestrian, canning and preserving community to a fast food, indoor, computer age. And in that transition, you see our health just take a steep decline.
Yeah.
And now that's impacting us very much, not only our physical health, but also our mental health, right?
Yeah.
But being out here is like so relaxing, right? Like you hear I don't know, some birds over there crowing. I see the dragonflies. Like I smell the fresh rain. The air is a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
It's just so much better for us. And so switching from rural to urban, while it may have its benefits and there's more like social components to it, the health component is something that we're going to need to address, over the next few centuries. If not, the human population is just going to continue to be reliant and become addicted to almost a toxic lifestyle.
Yep. So I believe that the work of organizations like yours and ours, it's so important in the fabric of society and in the community itself, because, like you said, these places, they're not accessible to many people.
Mm-hmm.
If it is not through an organization, and we're happy to have visitors, just let us know and we'll welcome you.
Sure.
We're happy to share what we're doing, same as you're happy to show what you're doing in Gardopia. And I think slowly people shows more interest, because land like this, I mean, you can go to public parks,
Mm-hmm.
and see a manicured area that has been treated. There's no native weeds. They don't even deal with it, because they spray whatever they can find. They poison the ground, and it's like, oh, this park is amazing. Well, it's been manicured,
Yeah.
but once you get out here, or even in larger parks that they have so much space, well, that's great, but then for you to go out there and reset, how many times people go camping? How many times people spend in nature?
It's probably outlawed to camp, to be honest.
Exactly.
You only get to camp like maybe during Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, Easter.
Yeah.
Easter weekend, like, okay, drop it. But yeah, you're not. And, there's like societal issues like, okay, they don't want homeless people camping out there.
True.
But these are bigger problems, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Why do homeless people have to camp there, right? Like, housing is a big issue, affordable housing, right? There's all these just different symptoms of poverty that have arrived in the city. And not to romanticize the country either, right? Like, the country has its own problems as well.
Yeah.
Farming actually has one of the highest suicide rates, right? So it's very difficult to farm and ranch, right? There's a lot of man hours. You're up at the crack of dawn. You don't get a day off, right? The animals every day
No.
have to be tended to.
Yeah.
So there's issues with everything, but it's finding a balance.
Yeah.
Right?
And then, like, on that topic, I think is really important to remark that resetting your biological clock, whatever you want to call it, like, just by coming out here or coming in anywhere that has access to nature, and be able to detach, walk through the trees, walk through the pastures, pet a dog that keeps getting on the camera. Like, it's like, it's crazy how all of that keeps you connected to somehow, I don't know, your core, your roots, the basic.
Sure.
Because, well, in the city, we all have schedules, meetings, and I gotta be there, and then I gotta follow up this, and then you have a life, and you just like try to crunch everything in one day. And then out here, I mean, yeah, we have to feed, we got our activities, but it gets to the point that we get to see the sunrise or the sunset, and then it's like, this feels good, and then you go on your day, and then also we have another challenge that you guys in the city have to deal with is weather. Like, we are not in an area on the world that is nice year round. Like, we are in
Feeling good now, but
yeah,
it
and
was a tough
just
August
entering
for sure.
September, that is like, oh my God, 95 degrees, and it feels already better.
Yeah.
But it's brutal. So talking about that reset, well, it's also limited, because how many rivers and springs they have been stopped flowing because all the water that we've been pumping, or how many holes of spring-fed water they just being dried. So it's so many things that before you were able to balance it out, like, oh, it's super hot, well, I'll go to the river and cool off. Great. And even now,
Yeah, you used to be able to swim in the San Antonio River. Like, I see pictures of the nuns at Incarnate Word floating in the Blue Hole. The Blue Hole doesn't even run anymore unless there's a big rain. So it's the
Yeah.
headwaters of the San Antonio River,
Uh-huh.
right? So how sad is that? And we have to make a change, right? We
Yeah.
have to make a change, and gardens are really just the first step, right? I say it's the gateway drug.
Yep.
Because for a lot of city folk who don't really care about nature the way that we should, how do we get that spark, right? What's that catalyst to get people to start caring? And that's what it was for me when I started putting my hands in the soil and touching the dirt,
Yeah.
right, and touching earth and like seeing the universe underneath my feet. I was like, oh my goodness, like I need to start caring more about creation.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to get people to even want to come out here, step one, let's get a little garden in their front yard or their backyard
Yeah.
or whatever, and let's get a garden at their school. Then let's start getting some gardens at the parks, and then they're gonna realize like, oh my goodness, like I need to go see a ranch. I need to go camping. I need to, know my farmer, know my rancher. I need to know where my beef comes from, right? Like
Yep.
we don't even know anymore. And luckily, San Antonio is very lucky to have, or Texas really, to have HEB, right? It's a great grocery store. Like they've just like mastered the middle process of getting it from the land and serving it to their customers. But that being said, like most major cities only have enough food for 3 days. So if there was a natural or geopolitical disaster, then most of us are out of luck, right?
Yeah, but also, some of the cities, I mean, man, Texas is huge.
Mhm.
So HEB has an empire that is able to supply the demand.
Mhm.
I mean, these guys, like you said, in other places, maybe 3 days food, these guys had to not only cover Texas, now they expanded to Mexico, so
Mhm.
they got to figure it out.
Yeah, they got the supply chain
Yeah.
and logistics, everything figured out. But we saw during COVID, even shelves in HEB were empty,
Oh, yeah.
right? Even at the time, and that was a little bit of panic, right? Everybody's not sure what's going on. They're just buying everything off the shelves. But for y'all got cattle in the back, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
you're not gonna starve. We're gonna get that garden going over there. You're gonna get you your seasonal
Yeah.
vegetables.
Yeah.
And so, figuring out, right? I think that there's enough land in Texas. Everybody should have a small little plot. Not everybody can have 30 acres, but everybody could have at least a quarter of an acre. I live on about a quarter of an acre, maybe a fifth of an acre, and that's enough for a small family, right?
Yeah.
And then you could have these bigger farms and ranches that are maybe like cooperatives,
Absolutely.
where they're communally owned, and we're growing our cattle, we're growing our beef for the year, we're growing our chickens for the year, right? And those models have already worked in the past. But again, we have the urban sprawl, and a lot of the farmland is getting eaten up. So we need to preserve that farmland and not build so much. And then the other thing is, public transportation as well, because it actually wasn't that long to get out here. It was about an hour, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Well, guess what? If we had like shuttles coming out here, or maybe even a bullet train from San Antonio to Houston, right? Then we can actually start traveling across the state a little easier, and it's not, such a hurdle. But if I'm in San Antonio and I don't feel like driving because it's tough. It took me, how long did it take me to get out here,
Oh,
right?
for a while.
Yeah.
But you're also the busiest guy that I know, so it's like to get you out here was insane. But yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you made it, and it just talks how we got responsibilities and all of that. But then whenever you have this moment to like, I want to go and visit them. I want to go and visit Red. I want to go and visit Marcos or Stephen and
And you go
Gardopia,
see Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. Yeah, he's such a, oh my god. But yeah, I mean, I think the goal of all of this, and seeing you is such an inspiration because your work has been for 10 years now.
We're going, yeah. We'll celebrate 10 years in May. We just signed for our first property,
Heck yeah.
which we got donated. And we're going to build some housing to do like a woofing program. We're in the process of purchasing our property as well, because that's been a hassle. We've, not owning property is really important.
Yeah.
Because, or not owning property is a challenge. It's a disenfranchisement, right? So 97 to 98% of agricultural land in America is owned by white Americans, right? So BIPOC farmers and ranchers, there's not a lot, right? Probably like less than 2 or 3%. And so that equity component is important, right? Especially in our community on the east side of San Antonio, downtown, right? A lot of the kids that we serve inside of Loop 410 are children of color, right? And so how do we inspire the next generation of farmers and ranchers, right? Where they're like, I want to be like David. I want to be able to go out and ranch and take care of my cattle and own some land, right? And that hasn't been a reality for a lot of folks in the inner city. And so changing that is something that we're trying to do because the average age of a farmer, it was 62.
Yeah.
I think it's now like 58. It went down a little bit. But we need to have that next generation because a lot of these farmers are selling off their land to developers.
Yeah, no, we'll take on the challenge.
Okay,
But reach out
there
to
you
us.
go.
We'll ranch your land and farm your land. So the other question, Red, do you have something to add into what we're talking right now?
Not anything on exactly the topic, but we were talking about big cities earlier and like kind of the disconnection of like rural versus city. I just got back from San Francisco. So many Sans.
Yeah, I know,
Saying
man.
everything. San Diego, saying that.
The Saints, baby.
Man, them Spaniards went everywhere. But anyways, I just got back from San Francisco, and it was really a trip to be there and be in the public parks, you know, that we were talking about that are so manicured, so well taken care of. And I remember, you know, I was there by myself, and so I'd go and talk to people and like hang out, and they'd be like, yeah, I just like to come out here and be in nature. And it, like, I had to hold it in a little bit where I was just like, this isn't nature. I hate to burst your bubble. Like, I get it. Like, I'm glad you're like, this is the starting point where you're getting to like put your feet in the grass. Like, I get it. But like, there's this such a disconnect of like, what is the perception of nature versus the reality of it. Like, actually getting back here and like seeing like the underbrush and this and that and all the things that aren't manicured, all the things that David and I have to come out here and actually wrestle up and like fix ourselves for the property and know what's edible, what's not, and this and that. And I don't know, it's just there's this big disconnect, and that's why I really like Gardopia Gardens, because it allows people to actually do the manicuring themselves, you know, rather than just perceive it and just take in that information as, oh, that's what nature looks like. They're actually getting to be like, okay, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is what this means with the soil. This is what this means with this plant. And I think it's also great for people in cities because they need to slow down. It was like something I noticed, like walking the streets of the city. I was like just looking around, hanging at my own pace. People were just like, like, calm down, slow down, man. Like, it's not like, hang out, you know.
It teaches you, and he said this earlier, it teaches you patience.
Yeah.
Right? Because
be patient.
when you plant a tree, you're not going to see fruit from that tree for like 3 to 5 years. And you have to be okay with that. And you can't rush that.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. You can feed it as much as you want, all that. Like, maybe you'll get 1 or 2, but like, to get that true harvest, it might be another decade.
Yeah.
And so starting to think more long term instead of like so short sighted that a lot of us can get. And it's funny you say that. So I was in DC, and I was like, man, this is just it's sanitized nature, right? Like it's like, imagine if somebody was just using hand sanitizer all the time on nature. Like, that's what it is, very sanitized. And it's like everything's in a perfect line. You have these little tree wells, and you have these little bushes here. And yeah, it's very sad the way that we've incorporated it. And you know, cities grew in different ways, right? But it wasn't that long ago, 10,000 years ago, that we were more hunter-gatherers and we were out in nature, right? And then we transitioned into agriculture. And since that point in time, you know, little by little, agriculture has been pushed to the periphery, more and more and more and more. And of course, people will be like, well, agriculture isn't nature either, right? Like, agriculture is man-made, like, you know, having fences and having cattle and all that. Yeah. But there's a way that you can do it, right, that is more in line with nature. And that's what y'all are trying to do out here.
So something that, on that topic, so we were hunter-gatherers, and then we switched into, like, agriculture. And when you think about something, we settle in the most pristine fields that we knew that it grew better.
With rivers and lakes and ponds,
Now those pristine grounds are cities. So slowly it's being pushing out to the ground, leaving some great ground, you know, ready to be worked on, but the quality might not be the best. And then it's decaying more and more. I've seen it in Mexico, in some parts that used to be grown corn or other crops, that land was great for it. Well, now they're switching to another, you know, plants like agave and another berries because the demand of the U.S. is insane. So they go down there. So this healthy soil is now used for a different purpose that you're not even using the soil. You're using the resources underground, usually water. So it gets to the point that farmland, okay, well, those farmlands are becoming a little bit more in the distant, like a tail, because of the expansion of the urban
Urbanization.
urbanization and as well as these ranches. I mean, once you section it, that's it.
Yeah.
There used to be only one or two wells. Now you're gonna have plenty more wells to supply the water. So it gets a little challenging as the city grows and the population grows. Um, it's just we need to be, you know, like I guess more involved in how we can have products, healthy products. That I think that's one of my goals is to have grow and offer healthy products because you don't want to grow anything that is empty in nutrients. Like, come on. And you also not agreed with this like farm. Oh, I'm sorry, lab grown food. It's like the amount of
dystopian.
yeah, it's like
So
the
dystopian.
amount of money that it costs
Yeah.
to set up a factory. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me, you know, like the Swedish, they're great at this. They can build a farm, then grow with aquaponics, tremendous amount of food. And that's admirable. But it's like, okay, well, Sweden is it's a country up there that you know the weather conditions might not be the best, the soil, whatever, and they figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, God's sake, they're Swedish. They
Yeah.
figure everything out and they make everything perfect.
Yeah.
But over here, we do things perfect as well because we have this empiric knowledge of our ancestors, but we don't have the capital to raise or the backup of the government because well, it's not there. It's not the highlands, like this regenerative agriculture, this, you know, reinforcing the fabric of society and community through education and health. Like, it's not on their agenda.
No.
And it might be, but in the thousands,
It's not a
page.
priority.
Yeah.
Especially at the local level. Of course, you know, you have the TDA and the USDA, but small farming and what they call specialty crops and small scale ranching is not incentivized the same
Yeah.
way that commercial agriculture is incentivized, and you know they can get huge grants and loans and subsidies to be able to offset those costs. And the small farm and ranch is slowly declining, right? And it's getting bought up by these conglomerates, and so we sort of have to reverse that. We have to show that this is the way, that there's an economic model
Exactly.
behind it,
Yeah.
and then involving the community around education.
Absolutely, and then being able to, the responsibility for organizations like us, like ours, is we have to be able to be transparent and show others that hey, there's this things that you can do, because something that happens from the, you know, difference between the city and over here in the country. In the city, there is so much information. You can go to a convention. You can go to all of this, you know, chats and places in these city buildings or whatever, and it's just so much information available. And the countryside is Facebook. They get their information from Facebook or Fox News or any other like whatever the news they get. But the point is like they don't really get that exposure to other people that is like, oh, I can apply for a grant. Oh, I can get approached to Gardopia and they might be able to help me out to develop a program or something like that, you know? So they stay secluded in the way that, well, I got my ranch and I've been doing this for a long time. My papa did it. I'm my grandpa. And it's like, okay, at some point you have to like take off that band or those glasses that you're seeing through and then get a new ones because you have to get on it.
Yeah.
And you have to get creative, and there is a lot of economy, you know, out there. You can have farm to market events. You can partner with organizations, and you can get your products out there. Or it simply as a agro-tourism. That's huge. It's coming up really high on the industry. So it's like there's multiple ways. Not easy because they need someone to guide them. I personally, I needed someone to guide me, and then luckily there were some people to guide me, and now I want to offer to other people like, look, I might don't have the answer for your problem, but I can sure give you some tools that you'll figure it out.
Sure.
You know, so I think
Exposure.
Yeah.
Right. People need to be exposed to these things. If you're never exposed, then you really can never go in that direction.
Absolutely. So we are already talking a broader thing, but I do want to ask you something. Would you share to many young organizations like Alianza Raíces Vivas and other organizations out there that are watching us, or individuals, what has been some of the challenges that you have faced in this last 19 years on your organization, through the Adventure Society, personal? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think just any endeavor, either for-profit or nonprofit, a lot of it comes down to financing, right? And the work that we do, you need to have land.
Yeah.
So land and money, right? The biggest problems everybody has.
Hey, tell me where I can find it.
Yeah. So, just sort of navigating that, having to work another job, right? Like, I worked another job for a long time until finally Gardopia. It took almost 5 years for me to get the big old salary of $1,500 a month, and so being able to live off that, right? And not everybody's in that situation. Maybe they have a family, they might have kids, different things going on. So I was blessed to be in a situation where I could devote and dedicate my life to this mission. So
Beautiful.
that's really the biggest thing. You have to be willing to put in the time and understanding that it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, we're a decade in and we're still sharpening the knife. And we're going to have to sharpen the knife for another decade,
Absolutely.
right? So understanding that, like, this is not like 1 or 2 years get rich quick scheme. Like, you really have to be committed to this, and it can't be about the money. If you're doing it for the money, then you're going to fail pretty quick, because you're not going to make any money, and you're like, damn, I gotta go make money, right?
Exactly.
So that's a challenge. The land situation, luckily we got very lucky that 5 months in, the San Antonio Housing Authority connected us to land, because I didn't know where to get land. I didn't have any money for land, and so for them to say, hey, we're going to connect you to these property owners was big, because as a young organization, I didn't have like the backing or the credentials to be like, yo, Red, can I use your land? Like, who are you? But when a governmental organization comes in, it's like, yo, you need to let these people do this because you're being an absentee property owner. The conversation's different. And then a team, building a team. Like, you can't do it by your own. Like, you might have a great idea. I'm sure everybody here has a great idea. There's a lot of billion-dollar ideas, but the execution of that idea is the hard part, right? Yeah. Day in, day out. And so having team members that are also willing to put in that sweat equity to make that dream come to life. But luckily, the work we're doing is something easy to get behind, because everybody eats food. Everybody breathes fresh air. Everybody drinks clean water. And if we want to keep doing that, then again, we have to make changes. But overall, keeping the passion up. This isn't something that it's not going to easily occur. And if you don't have that passion for it, it's easy to give up.
Okay, the next question is, how do you keep that passion up?
It just has to, it has to be inside of you. Like, for me, I meditated and prayed on what would I be happy doing for the rest of my life, right? Because you get to a point, right? You get to a point maybe in your 20s, maybe in your 30s, whatever. Maybe midlife crisis, and you're like, dang, like, I'm on this planet, I was born, and I was born where I was born, and, like, what am I going to do, right? Especially if you're not born rich, right? So, like, you have to work for a living. So what are you going to work? What are you going to do, right? What's going to be your contribution to be able to pay the bills and enjoy life? Because I don't think humans are here just to work, right? We're not here to clock in from a 9 to 5, right? So for me, I'm not working, right? I am out here achieving a goal for my community. So if you have a goal for your community and for yourself, then that's where the passion comes from, right? Because even when you're tired, even when you have other things to do, like, I would love to go to the river every Saturday and Sunday. I would love to, after work, go to the beach. I'd love to go hike in the mountains, right? But in order for me to have that future life, I think right now my mission is to do this. And so I want to achieve that goal, right, and make my community a better place. And then in the future, maybe you can go do those other things, right? But being very concentrated on the work that we're doing. And, when I thought of Gardopia, it was pretty bad. We were in an epidemic, right? We were in an obesity epidemic. But then it switched to a pandemic. And I guess when you switch the prefix with those 3 letters, people care about it more.
Yeah.
And so now, because of that pandemic, people shifted for a moment. I think people are starting to forget again, like what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when like all of society shuts down, quote unquote, like I remember I was watching a basketball game in March, and like all of a sudden like the ticker comes on, like, all right, we're canceling the game.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Like, we're not playing tonight. Like, you can see that society can
Refund
change.
me!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Society can change. So what does that mean? What is it going to take to change, right? Because most
Yeah.
people don't change unless they have a life-altering event. You get in a crash, a family member dies, you know, you declare bankruptcy. Like, something really big has to happen
Yeah.
for humans to change. And so what's that big thing that's going to happen? Well, it's actually happening right now. We're in the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, from the computer age and shifting to the health issues to AI, like it's all happening right now. And if you can see it happening, then you can make those changes. But for a lot of us, again, if you're born into it, like kids right now are born into technology. I wasn't born into technology. I remember what life was like without technology, but we're getting to the point where we're going to become so reliant on it, and we're in this sanitized nature space that we're destroying our planet. Really, we're destroying our planet, and we're destroying our bodies at the same time.
Yeah. I have something to add to that. So, speaking about trying to inspire others to go out in nature, touch grass, essentially, you know, get out there, you know, touch grass, like,
There you
you
go.
know, yeah, like actually do it. So this is about like 2 years ago. This is for my birthday. My friends reached out to me, and they were like, "Well, what would you like to do?" And I was like, "You know, I'd like to do something for y'all for my birthday. Come with me. I want to take y'all to my favorite hiking spots. It's out in the middle of nowhere. You know, I'll take y'all swimming in the waterfall. We'll drink, you know, from the water. We'll go see these like wild buffalo. We'll go and we'll camp and we'll cook and this and that."
Yeah.
And we had an amazing day, right? I took him to some of my favorite spots, and we get to the campfire, and I hear something so disheartening from one of my friends. And I'm sorry to my friend who said this. I love you. I still love you. But he said, "You know, one day we won't even have to get out in nature. We'll just all be at home, and we'll just put on our VR goggles."
Yeah, the Apple. What are those things called?
Yeah, our Apple Vision.
Apple Vision.
And it made me think, and I was like, well, then what then would be our need to protect nature? To what's our need to have any of this if people like you just forget about it? I just want to sit at home, put on my VR headset, never really see my friends or see nature, really touch grass. I'll just have it virtually. And I was just like, man, is that where we're going, this dystopia where nature is just a long gone myth, you know, and we just perceive it through glasses, you know? So
Well,
I
the
guess-
Matrix, man, or Wall-E,
Yeah.
right? It's very simple, and that's...
Well, my question was going to be, what would you say to somebody who says something like that? How would you inspire them? Because that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to inspire them to get out more. And it seems like I didn't hit my mark. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what can I do to get you here?
Sure. It's tough, man. I mean, the endorphins and, like, the positive feelings of scrolling on social media, like, it's a science, right? And
Yeah.
we've really been trained, like a dog whistle with the little bing, bing, like the notifications.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like
Pavlov's
yeah,
dog. You're like,
exactly.
"Who's texting me?"
So we're fighting a big machine,
Yeah.
and we can't save everybody. You know, that's the idea. And not save, I don't mean to use that word. We can't encourage everybody maybe to live a more natural life.
Yeah.
But those who are willing to come along, right? Those are who are willing to come out to the ranch. Those are who are willing to camp. You know, even if we could get 50, 60, 70% of people to adopt a lifestyle around environmentalism, to stop using plastic bottles, maybe to reduce how much they drive, right? Maybe to plant some trees and just those basic steps.
Yeah.
That'll be a success. You know, I need to go plant this guy's garden.
I know, I'm just kidding him.
But yeah, no, there's always gonna be people who are like, yo, I don't need to do this. I can have a robot take care of my cattle. I don't need to go take care of my cattle. I can have a
God,
robot
that's
go
so crazy.
plant my crops, right?
Robot cowboys. We're coming. Robot cowboys.
And that's just a reality. Big Ag, same thing. That's happening as well. So yeah, I don't think we're always going to get 100% adoption, but we need to get a higher adoption rate than we have, for sure. Because there are a lot of people who would enjoy it if you just got them out. You just got to get them out, right? They're like, oh my goodness, like this was actually fun. I enjoyed this. Making it a good experience as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what y'all have the opportunity to do here, right? To make a really good introduction to what sustainable, healthy living can look like, right? And so, yeah.
I think the key is to ground them to something. Like, find something that maybe speaks to them in particular and be like, like, just sit here in silence and enjoy this real quick, you know?
Maybe set up a VR station in there so you can come out. You gotta what's the carrot, right? The carrot versus the stick. Like how do I entice you? And then also I think it takes a certain amount of time, right? So like 1 day's good, 2 days is better, 3 days. Like I think the longer you're disconnected, because we've been disconnected, or because we've been connected to the grid since birth for most folks, it takes a little bit of time, to see an alternate reality that we can live in.
Yeah. I mean, and if we can get, because that's the experience that we've been having, because at some point, I feel that we almost like beg to people coming out here. Like, oh, come to the ranch, and it's not because we're desperate.
Please, I'm so lonely.
Yeah, it's like we're happy out here, we get out and we see people, but it's like we enjoy so much that we are excited to share. Yeah. And then the experience that we've been receiving from people that visit is that they actually come the first time and they're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out there again.
Yeah.
Because it's like, of course, it's a ranch. There's nothing special to a ranch. The only thing that we're doing is practicing regenerative agriculture and holistic management. That's it. Like nothing else. And we serenade the cows. I mean, he does.
And I have my vulture.
Yeah, and he has a vulture. So, like, it's nothing that crazy, in a sense, this is gonna be or sounding like a cliche, but it's like, how things are like cool, like we're gonna make sushi cool again, and it happens. Like my approach is like, why don't we make ranching and farming cool? Like, why everyone has this perception of like, oh, the country people, like, we're really kind and people are open, so it's like, give it a chance. Get out there,
And also imagine if San Antonio, all around San Antonio's ranches and farms, all around the perimeter. So as soon as you get outside of 1604, you're seeing all this. Like this could be created, but one, you need to work with the landowners to make it happen. Two, it needs to be incentivized as well, right? So working with nonprofits, working with private landowners, and being able
working with institutions too.
Doing research, university. I mean, it's Texas A&M, right? Like one of the biggest universities all around agriculture. So it is possible, but it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time, but for folks like us that are doing it, we just got to keep ringing that bell, right? Like keep letting people know, keep begging people to come out. Like in the beginning of Gardopia, only like 1 or 2 people would show up on a Saturday morning for the volunteer days. And that was a little disheartening, right? You're like, man, like, I'm really trying to do something good for the community. Like, this is good for y'all. Why are people not showing up? But, then it was 3 people. Then it was 5 people. Then it was 10 people. Then it was 100 people, So there's gonna be that waterfall moment for all of us. But even 100 people isn't enough. We need to hit 1,000. I mean, there's 1.5 million people in San Antonio. And San Antonio is just one city, right? That's just one. Like, there's Austin, there's Dallas, there's Houston, there's Brownsville, there's Harlingen, there's El Paso, there's Laredo, there's Eagle Pass. That's just Texas. That's just one state. So we have a lot of work to do. So if you want to donate to us so we can do this good work.
I'm begging you, please donate to us.
It can
Give us the money.
Yes. I'm shooting for Mackenzie Scott. Mackenzie Scott, if you see this, I know you made a big donation to the 4-H program. But here in Texas, beyond 4-H, there are small NGOs that could also use your support.
Thank you.
And we can't do it without donors.
No,
we can't. You can't do it without donations as a nonprofit. Like, you don't have some huge salary, right? Like, you're not making $1 million. So
we wouldn't be sitting underneath this barn without our donations.
Yeah, this is great, man. I love it. So, got an awesome job.
Donations is definitely what keeps us going. Besides of the passion, I wouldn't be doing anything else in my life. Like, I mean, of course, I have to earn something and pay my bills and whatever, but I love what I do. I mean, I love ranching. It's something that I grew up around. I see the value on it. I see the impact on nature, and then luckily along the way, I've been, so fortunate and so grateful that Red is here and other people in my journey that it's to me is like, yeah, like I wouldn't be doing anything else. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I'm thankful for everyone that supports Raíces Vivas and Gardopia. So, yeah, I mean, we gotta keep sharing resources, love, and then bringing people out here because it's something that spreads. Like you inspire others.
Yeah. It's infectious.
Yeah.
Contagious.
I mean, it's like it's crazy, but like to us, many people see it and it's like, are you real cowboys? Like, I mean, yeah, but what is your definition of a cowboy?
Yeah.
But then you see, like, little kids. To me, like growing up, I mean, my aspiration was Emiliano Zapata, who fought for the people, on their lands, and then Pancho Villa. So they were like ultimate cowboys, Mexican. Like so to me, it was like I grew up seeing that, and nowadays, some kids they don't have a role model, and it's hard for them to say like, I want to be like, I don't know, some video game, or I want to be like this YouTuber, and it's like.
Oh man, I know.
Oh
My
my
little brother, he was like, I want to be a streamer.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
Streamers and YouTubers, yeah.
I was like, no.
But what are you gonna stream?
Yeah.
A game?
I was like, no, be a cowboy, do something. Come on.
So it's something about doing a project that is noble to the planet, to the environment, to the community. It's great. I mean, you get the respect from the people. You get this solidarity as well, and then people wants to help. Whether it's $1 or $10 or whatever or helping you in the volunteer.
Yeah,
That's
the
great.
volunteers,
Like
yeah,
it's
definitely.
something that gets contagious. So I'm really thankful that we're doing all of the jobs, all of this work around here and around in the city, and I can't wait to keep growing programs in the city, but we rely completely on donations to get that. So, yeah, just keep supporting us. Thank you.
Give us the water. We
Yeah,
need
give us
water.
the water.
To,
We
to
need
grow
water.
these seeds.
Okay, so Stephen, can you tell us? Like, I bet you have so many stories and so many moments that you're like, this was great. But can you tell us one of the most cheered moments that has happened to you through your actions in Gardopia? Like, some moment that you were almost like crying. Like, what's the story that you can share with us? This memory.
There's so many. Like the fact that we are now in over 55 schools this coming year.
Wow.
That's big. When we got a really big donation to allow us to bring on staff, right? To be able to pay rent, to be able to have a little bit of a salary, like that's huge, right? Because when you're starting out a nonprofit, if you're not familiar with this work, it's like, how do you create income for the organization to grow the mission, right? Because I think a lot of people think that nonprofits do this work with nothing, right? They're like, oh, you don't need any money to do it. No, like we still have to have staff. Like
We don't have money.
We still have
That's a
utilities.
fact.
We still have bills.
Yeah.
We have a phone. We have internet. We have water. So like, when you get that call from somebody that the least you expected, he's like, hey, I got $50K for you to do this. Like, that was big. When we got the USDA grant for $50K with Young Women's Leadership Academy, like seeing your work get recognized at a national, at a federal level. We just got another USDA Farm to School grant to digitize our curriculum and make videos, high quality videos. So like, I feel like we've just, week after week, month after month, we've had a lot of wins, man.
That's
so
amazing.
To point to one, I mean, probably, I talked about it earlier, like having that property that we're currently on, being able to show what we could do. Because a lot of times it's just an idea. but you need the property to show, because you know you can do this.
Yeah.
But telling people about it is different than showing people.
Yeah.
Right? And so being able to show people day in and day out, and every garden I build is almost my favorite garden. Like when we were building the Victory Gardens, I was like, man, I like this one. I like this one. Every garden I build, like I just love it more and more, right?
Yeah.
So, it's, being able to harvest apples, being able to harvest figs, right? Taking a bite of that fig, just like, Yesterday he came to my house and we just recorded my front yard really quick because I got rid of all my grass except for one small patch, right? But having my tomatoes right now are just growing crazy. So every day is just a good day to grow, And in Central Texas and San Antonio, even in the summer, we can grow okra and watermelons and peas and Swiss chard, right? So I just love seeing life grow and flourish.
That's beautiful.
Our chickens, right? When you harvest those eggs and you're able to just crack them open, or mushrooms from Central Texas Mycological Society, and I fry them up, real quick, or I harvest some collards, just throw a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of seasoning, those are the
You're throwing recipes
moments.
now?
Hey,
Dang, man.
a little Salt Bay.
That's amazing, though. Well, I mean, from any other, I don't know, I'm kind of running out of questions or ideas more in the conversation, but would you like to add something else that you just want to share with us and for everyone
Yeah,
watching?
I mean, again, I think for me, the theme of becoming healthier and more sustainable, people can do it. You can do it. It's not impossible. There are organizations like us that are willing to show you the way. And then there are governmental programs, right, that maybe could also assist you on the way. And so don't think it's impossible. No step is too small. Plant a tree, grow some herbs, start composting, get a reusable water bottle. There's some small steps you can take. And then I saw this picture. It was like a ladder, right? And so ultimate sustainability and health is at the top of the ladder. And a lot of times people just see that, but they don't realize that you got to take one rung at a time, right?
Yeah.
And you got to climb that ladder, and it's not going to happen, overnight. So just be patient with yourself and make those baby steps, and then find your community, right? You may not be in Texas. You might be in Wisconsin, or you might be in Tennessee or Oklahoma. Yeah.
Shouts out Okie.
And sometimes that community is very small, but trust me, if you put a post out on social media, be like, yo, I'm trying to create this regenerative, organic, initiative in my city, meeting with your council members, meeting with your county commissioners, meeting with your state reps, people will help you along the way. You just gotta take that first step.
Yeah, that's great. And if I can add something to it is, don't get overwhelmed. I mean, shooting to this ultimate sustainability, it's all over social media, it's all over in influencers, it's all over the place. Sometimes it's not real. It's most of the time it's not real. So don't feel bad if you don't have your flask and then, you need to drink water. It's okay, just buy a bottle of water. The world is not gonna end right then, but try to change those habits, like you say, little by little, that you don't rely on those so much. Because what I've seen in some people and some individuals is that they really want to go there. They're like, oh my God, and they take it seriously, but it gets to the point that they don't even enjoy it anymore. It's like, yo, you're not seeing it for what it is. You're not enjoying yourself. It's a purpose, and then now you're taking it as, oh my God, I'm gonna go to hell if I don't, if I buy a bottle of water, if I buy something that is gonna take clothes that is not 100% cotton, or that is gonna stay in the planet for so long. Of course, look for those things, but sometimes it's not available 100%. So if you're doing 10, 20, 50, 70, 80, 90, you're great. You take the first step.
Baby steps.
It's better than the people sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Something is better than nothing.
Yeah. And then a huge takeout is, from what I've heard from you, is hear yourself, hear your body. If your body's telling you, I'm not liking that you're drinking too much horchata or Coca-Cola or
My body never says that.
yeah, I know. I as soon as I realized it, I was like, God, red. So I think it's
No
like,
such thing.
sugars or like fats and then processed oils and like saturated fats. I just mean that hear your body, and if something is going on, we'll be aware of it. And I mean, you're here for a reason, so explore a little bit, because you might find the solution right there.
And enjoy it. And nature's majesty, right? Like all over the world is just so beautiful. Whether it's the mountains, whether it's the plains, whether it's the riverways and the estuaries, right? Like, I think that is part of our purpose of being on this planet, is to see how amazing nature is, right? In its purest form, not touched by man. But it's tough to get out of the city. I know, trust me. I didn't camp. I never camped when I was a kid, and it's not because like my family didn't like camping or my family didn't like nature, but I think that's just the way city life has gone, like we mentioned earlier. So you do have to sometimes take the initiative to get out of that bubble.
Yeah.
But once you get out of that bubble, then it starts to be, I think, a waterfall or a domino effect.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
now you're an adult. You can come and camp anytime.
Come on,
Yeah.
I got my tent. I'm
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Man, this has been a pleasure. I do want to make one comment before you close the conversation. Our organizations completely rely on your help. Check out Gardopia Gardens. They're doing an amazing work in San Antonio and surrounded areas. They're an inspiration to us, Raíces Vivas, and a huge partner. So give us some support. Go to their page or go to the link. We'll have either their donation or our donation. And then make sure that come and visit us. I mean, whether you have some time off, you can go to Gardopia. Incredible place to go and take sparkling water or just water. They will
Just
give
got
you
a water fountain.
yeah. Oh, there you go. There's a water fountain there, so
We're
you're gonna find the snacks in the garden. So just go there, reach out to them. You're more than welcome to come to the ranch. We don't have any fruit trees, but we'll give you some snacks.
Soon.
We got
So-
prickly pear.
Oh, we got
Alright,
prickly.
there you go.
Marcos knows about that.
So, well, anything that you want to close the interview with, or the conversation? This is not an interview. This is a ranch conversation.
No,
Yeah.
man, I think we've covered a lot. Hopefully folks will come out. GardopiaGardens.org is our website. Follow us on social media at Gardopia Gardens, and let's get growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, amigos.
What do we say?
Oh yeah.
I say happy trails.
Happy trails.
Happy
Stay
trails,
cool,
Marcos.
guys.